My name is Ekenedilichukwu, Cynthia, and the first question that I'll be answering is what is Spring Boot and what are its benefits? Now, for me, Spring Boot is like a magic wand for developers working with the Spring framework. Imagine having a huge checklist of things that you need to set up before you can start coding. The job of Spring Boot is to take care of most of, if not all of that for you. It is designed to get your Spring application up and running in a matter of seconds or minutes with minimal effort and configuration. Now, what are the benefits of Spring Boot? The first benefit that I would say is quick setup, like I already said in the definition that I gave. You can start a new project in a matter of minutes or seconds, and it's like having an already made template that you just need to tweak a little bit. The second one is standalone applications. Now, instead of deploying your app on a separate server, Spring Boot lets you run your app on its own. All you need to do is just click and go, and your app is running. The third benefit is production-ready features. It comes with built-in health checks, metrics, and other tools that you need to make it easy to deploy your app and monitor your app in the real world. The last but not the least is Spring Initializer, and this is a web tool where you can pick and choose the components you need, and it generates the projects for you. It is a huge time saver. An example of the use of Spring Boot will be in one of our projects where we needed to build a web application to manage student records. Spring Boot was a huge time saver because it sets up everything for you from the web server to the database connections automatically, and we could just jump straight into writing the code that mattered without worrying about all the setup. The second question that I'll be answering is explain microservices and what features exist in the Spring Boot to help develop them. Now, in simple terms, microservice is like an approach to designing software where you break down your application into small independent services. Each service does one thing and it does it well, and they can be developed, they can be deployed, and they can also be scaled independently, which makes handling complex applications much easier. Now, what are the Spring Boot features for microservices? The first one is Spring Cloud, and this suite of tools helps you manage microservices. It handles things like finding other services, managing configurations, and balancing the load between different services. The second one is embedded servers. Each microservice runs on its own server, and thus making deployment a lot simple. The third one is actuator, and this provides endpoints for monitoring your services. You can easily check if a service is up and running and how it is performing, and also, more metrics. The fourth is DevTools, and it speeds up development with features like automatic restarts. It's also great for making changes quickly and seeing results instantly. An example of the use of microservice will be in a project that I am currently working on where I'm building a commerce platform using microservices. I have different services for handling inventory, orders, payments, and customer management. And with Spring Boot, each service is easy to develop and deploy independently. The Spring Cloud rather, also helped me with service discovery and configuration, and the actuator provided valuable insights into the health of each service. And this approach has made the entire process and system very robust and very easy to maintain. The third and final question that I'll be answering is how are the at-rest controller and the at-controller annotations different? Now, imagine you're building a web application and you need different ways to handle user requests. That is where the at-controller and the at-rest controller come in, and they serve different purposes. The controller annotation is used when you are building a traditional web application that returns HTML views. Think of it as handling requests and sending back web pages. For instance, if someone visits a URL on your app, you might want to show them a nicely formatted HTML page, and I will display an example of how the controller is used on the screen. In the case of this code, when someone goes to /hello, the method adds a hello world message to the model and returns a greeting, which corresponds to the greeting.html file that we have saved in our templates folder. So it's all about rendering a view, which is an HTML page for the user. On the other hand, @REST controller is used for RESTful web services. It is used when you want to send data directly to the client, usually in a JSON format instead of an HTML format. It is super handy for building APIs, and with the @REST controller, you don't need to add the response body to each method. It is just simply implied. Here's an example on the screen. In this scenario, when somebody accesses the /API/hello, they get the string hello world directly as JSON. There is no HTML involved, just data. And this is great for client-side applications that just need to fetch data from the server, like a React or like an Angular app.